Yes? Walaikum salam, Rahmatullah.
Could you tell me why aren't we allowed to listen to string music, please?
To which music?
String music.
String music? Well, it is not, it is discouraged so that you have a better taste developed for more useful things in life. For tilawat and for good things. Yeah? And if you are drawn by music once, then you are drawn further and further, and your whole attitude in life is misdirected towards the pursuit of vain pleasures. Taste does not develop for more serious and hard things for which the man is created. So these are the safeguards against the distortion of taste. Otherwise, in itself, it is not as forbidden as other sins are. If somebody listens to music, he will not go to hell. Nowhere is it written. Or nowhere is it written that he will be punished. When Muhammad didn't listen to music, he just showed a sign of himself, bowing himself, keeping himself away. And did not mention categorically anywhere that you should not listen to music. So that was a gesture showing us that he would not encourage the love for music at all. He would rather disdain it. But if somebody did, well, he is not punished anyway. Right? Who raised the hand first?
He did.
Elizabeth.
Aslam.
Are you the oldest member of the class?
No.
Are there older boys and taller ones as well? Huh? You think so? Okay.
If Adam was the first man in the was he a caveman?
He was not.
The first human being on that film?
No. Sorry. Sit down and ponder over this question again. And then if you have anything to ask, let me know. Now, sit down.
Islam. Could you please tell me what the Quran says about nuclear war?
Well, the Quran positively prophesies the nuclear war to occur on this earth with vast destruction. And although the destruction described by the Holy Quran is vast and immense, yet it also prophesies at the same time, the same place, that human beings in large numbers would survive. And then the surviving human beings would turn seriously towards Islam and would ultimately follow the path of the Holy Prophet, who follows the right, straight path. So this is a great prophecy made 1400 years ago, for which there were no signs at that time. In fact, the science of that age was so preliminary and primitive that it was inconceivable even by the most advanced scientists to predict such things. Yet strange it is that our Sallallahu the founder of Islam, although he was not a scientist, yet he speaks of this advanced knowledge of man and of how it would bring calamity to man himself. So there are so many things that I think let it suffice here that the prediction is there, not only in one place, but in some other places as well. And human race would survive. Yes?
So, sorry,
you wanted to remind me that you are taller than he is? Now stand up, please, let's see. Who's taller? About the same height, yes. I think the birds in the center of your head perhaps is half an inch taller than you, higher than this. Huh?
So are you saying that there will certainly be a world war, and a nuclear war?
There's very likelihood there would be, otherwise the Holy Quran wouldn't predict it.
So it can be averted or not?
It can be.
Does it have to be?
It philosophically speaking, it can be. But actually, it's a very, very remote possibility if at all. Because that if involves a transformation in the character of human beings who control the world affairs. And they are turning to God and to morality. Of that, there is very little likelihood, if at all any. So although theoretically speaking, there should be a likelihood of averting this war, but that decision depends on not on our minds, on our actions as well. If we reform truly and honestly and turn to God, yes, everything can be averted. But I don't see any signs of, such happening.
Is there any indication anywhere of when the day of judgment will be? When the day of judgment will be?
Day of judgment.
Day of judgment, absolutely. Well, the indications are so many, spread all over the Holy Quran. But the time between now and then seems to be so large, so immense, that perhaps by human reckoning, it would not be possible for you to have a correct estimate at that time. But there are indications that the time is very, very far off. Because, for instance, in one place the Holy Quran tells us that the people on the day of resurrection, when they will be brought up again, they will be talking between themselves, judging about the time it has lapsed, time they carried on earth. And some would say, perhaps a day, and the others would say that less than a day, it is far thereof. And still, their judgment would not be accurate, and only Allah tells us, He knows how much they carry. Now, if you look back at the past events, the remoter they are, the smaller they appear to you, don't they? So, if the whole lifetime appears to be that small to them, they must have gone very, very far away from that lifetime. And the same phenomenon is true in space as in time. The farther a thing is from you, the smaller it appears. Look at the stars. There are some stars which are as big as the whole planetary system. Yet you can hardly see them with your naked eyes. You have to employ the help of modern telescopes and electronic telescopes and things. Yet in their volume, in this mass, they are even greater than the whole mass put together of the planetary system. So that is because the distance is too much. So the same principle works in time. So when you're too far away in terms of time, when you look back, the events appear to be very small and miniature size. So when they would look back at that time, they would think they carried only for an hour or part thereof. That means it's very far off, a remote hour when we are talking about God. Okay? Yes, the one who
spoke.
Yes, please.
So are we allowed to kill birds or rabbits for sport in Islam?
Who told you to ask this question again? Yeah, I was suspecting that much. Very persistent, aren't you? And the second, somebody wanted to ask a question from this side? Was it you? Come on. Virginia, come here. How are you, by the way? Huh? Not too tired, I hope? No?
Why are we not allowed in Islam to celebrate birthdays?
It's useless. Why should you celebrate your birthday? Tell me why. Give me a good reason why.
So like the day before birth.
Why? I mean, most of the people who are born are wicked, aren't they?
Yes.
Because most of the people on earth are wicked. So why should you celebrate the day when a wicked person is born? And you should celebrate other people's birthdays who are pious and good and holy. Why should you celebrate the birthday of worthless people? And giving yourself the compliment as if your birthday in that time that important as your birthday should be celebrated. These things are accidental. Births and birthdays and everything connected about them is just accidental, isn't it? For accidental things you don't celebrate. You celebrate for achievements. What is your achievement in being born? Tell me. You didn't participate in any way in the whole process of birth. You were just born accidentally for causes which were not of your control. So why should you celebrate a thing in which you didn't participate? You have no right to.
You said that on Tuesday that God is quite close to you as a person. And will that go for the non-believers?
Yes. In that sense, He is close to everyone. But He is remote from them because in the other sense which I described on Tuesdays, right? Unless you travel towards Him spiritually, you can't close the gap. Although this gap is infinite, yet you are traveling towards God, that is, you are feeling the sense of nearness towards Him. That can be done only spiritually. So those people who don't even care do that, God remains remote to them forever and forever. Yet He is here, everywhere. His presence is there. Yes, please.
Sorry.
Wa-alaikum.
So if you have a dream, and if no one in the family knows
The meaning of that dream,
the meaning of that dream, so what do you advise the best thing to do?
write to me.
Why is it that most of the prophets were from the Arabic and the Jewish race? And
Who told you that?
well, that's what, like Muhammad and Jesus.
How many prophets are mentioned having been born in that area which you have just referred to?
Well, from Jewish race. And
How many? Just a rough estimate.
I don't really know.
Say if you could score or 2 scores or 3 scores.
Well, I thought a lot of them were born from...
Read all the names mentioned in the Bible as prophets and in the Holy Quran, and you can count them on your fingertips, twice, on the hands. Hardly there would be, and at maximum I think there shouldn't be more than 35 or so. Anybody who can correct me on that?
So why don't we...
Tell me this moment. But we know from a tradition of the Holy Prophet of Islam that there were 124,000 prophets born on earth. So where were they born then?
Well, why don't we know about all the ones from Europe? And
That is a good, valid question, which I have repeatedly answered before. The fact is that the history of only those prophets was to be preserved on whose line the final prophet and the perfect prophet was to appear. That was the most important history for mankind. Why should have Holy Quran recorded and preserved the history of all the prophets on earth, ranging between 100,000 and some? How big that book would become. While if you stick to just one line on which the final manifestation of prophethood is to appear in the most consummate form, then it serves the full purpose completely. and also a representative specimen of prophethood is given from referring to that line. So you don't have to look elsewhere for any phenomenon belonging to prophethood which might have been missed here in this line. So it's a completely representative line of prophets in which every possible incident that could have occurred to prophets or any possible attitude of the people who opposed them has been mentioned completely and clear. So it's useless to increase the list unnecessarily. The Holy Quran categorically mentions repeatedly that these are not all the prophets, they are just specimens. Nowhere on earth can you pinpoint any area where prophets did not appear. There is no race where prophets did not appear, no time when prophets did not appear after the first revelation was made to man. So the whole earth abounded in prophets at various times in different races, in different geographical regions.
Does that mean that there will be prophets? Does that mean that there will be prophets now?
There is a prophet now in whom you believe, don't you?
No, I mean alive at the moment.
Huh?
I mean alive at the moment.
I said final law-bringing prophet has come, didn't I tell you? So no law can be brought again after the law of the Holy Quran. No independent prophet can ever be born anywhere because the prophet of the whole world has come, while previously the prophets only addressed some smaller areas or some smaller people, some tribes and so on. So nowhere in the earth would you find any prophet prior to Muhammad who claimed to have been the prophet of the whole world, of the whole mankind. So when this phenomenon has developed to maturity and it has been completed, then obviously there can't be any other prophet of that scale and that magnitude bringing a law, because the law which has been brought by Muhammad is perfect. You can't add to perfection. You can't subtract from perfection. So if the law is preserved and the book is preserved, that must continue. That is the logic behind this thinking. So we believe that as far as the final prophet, law-bringing prophet is concerned, the final prophet with authority, that was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and after that no such prophet can ever come. As far as the subordinate prophets are concerned, there are many types of subordinate prophets. Those who are like prophets, like the earlier prophets, and who have the status of those prophets, but who cannot be declared prophets by the new definition. That is, a prophet like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who addresses the whole mankind. So although they have the status of the earlier prophets, yet they are not called prophets, because now the prophethood has risen to a very high standard. So only he would be called a prophet who subordinates the Holy Prophet of Islam in every respect and addresses the entire mankind. Such a prophet has come. As far as the future is concerned, Allah knows best. But whoever comes, if anybody is to come again, he will have to refer his case to the founder of Islam and find his authority from him. If he is opposed, he will have to produce some evidence, some argument in his favor, and he will have to quote the Holy Quran and the tradition once again. So Hazrat Masih Maud did the same, and to our satisfaction, so we believed in him. So why should we bother about the prophet of future? Let's first finish with this process. Yes?
When a man is jailed for life, a man like some mass murderer or a Nazi war criminal like Rudolf Hess, then isn't that slightly shouldn't he be put to death instead? Would that be a better solution? Because to be shut up in jail all your life, the rest of your life.
If somebody is a mass murderer, as we have said, no punishment is enough for him, because he has taken hundreds of thousands of lives, and in exchange he has to offer only his life. If somebody is a mass torturer, he would be torturing many life hours of human beings. Yet even if he is tortured throughout his life, he has only to offer one life hour of one man. So how can you take your revenge here on earth? The only revenge lies in the hereafter. Otherwise, it's impossible to bring to books all the criminals and to dispense justice to them properly.
So if there was a man in Islam who was that kind of person, would he be put to death or jailed?
Well, I in fact answered that question. I know what you mean, but whether he is put to prison to elongate his torture or put to death, that is insignificant as compared to the crimes he has committed. But Islam believes in capital punishment. Also Islam believes in exceptions, and the right to forgive a murderer and turn his capital punishment to a lesser punishment or to total forgiveness is the right of the next of kin of the person murdered. It is not the right of a third person judge. So Islamic principles are based on human psychology. If somebody's brother is murdered, or father or son is murdered, what right has the government to forgive such a person? That person or those persons who have been deprived of their dear one's life, they alone have the right to forgive or not to forgive. This is exactly what the Holy Quran tells us. Law is the general, capital punishment is the general law, murder for murder. But possibility of forgiveness is also open. And that possibility of forgiveness would be utilized not by a third person judge, but by the next of kin of the person murdered. Alright? Yes?
Referring to the previous question, am I right in saying that if somebody, like the example you quoted, that if their brother is murdered, is it at their discretion to forgive or to have that punishment? But then supposing that that man has a mental problem or something, that he is a compulsive killer or something like that, then shouldn't it be best to imprison him or kill him?
Well, they would know anyway.
Yeah, but for instance,
if a person is a public danger, then the right of forgiveness will be taken away from the next of kin, because they can only forgive the past crime. They cannot forestall the possibility of a future crime. So that is a different type of problem. In that case, the state will of course put her foot down and say that for the sake of the safety of the people outside, you may forgive, but we can't forgive and we must take preventive measures.
Where aren't we allowed to take photographs from Medina, Khanaka?
You're not allowed? Who told you?
A woman and her husband, they go.
Well, are you the same wife who referred to some papers, newspapers and magazines in which Hocus Pocus was published? Who was it? The same wife? You must have read it in the same papers.
My mom said that.
Huh?
My mom said that.
So your mom the source of all that? Oh, tell me, who are you? Who are your parents? Do I know them?
My mom told me.
Tell me, who are your parents?
Christine.
Huh? Oh yes, yes, I saw you with them once. So I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to stop them telling you all this fib.
A woman and her husband, they go to Khana Kaaba and they wanted to take photographs, but they didn't allow them to take the photographs.
Well, I know the problem, yes, you're quite right there. In that sense, because the Wahhabis who rule the area where Khana Kaaba is situated, they don't believe in pictures. Only when the king's picture is taken for publishing in the newspapers, they permit it. But in principle, they don't believe in taking photos and things. So the police, the shurti there, they might have done that. But if your friend would offer them some riyals, I think it would be good. That's what happens. The next time you meet them, you tell them, take a few extra riyals if you want to take photographs. All over the world, the photo of Kaaba is published. And when the ceremony of changing the cloth is held, that also is published. But on these things, there's such contradiction in their behavior and their beliefs. Yes?
Why aren't we allowed to, you can say on the Mars, wear topi? Why not allowed?
Well, this again is a cultural matter. The fact is that according to the Oriental culture, Islamic culture, which is now called, but it is not, well, in this regard, it will be maybe declared Islamic. But generally in the Orient, it is considered a sign of respect to wear some headdress when you appear before your elders, before those whom you respect. And that tradition is kept very meticulously. When you appear before someone whom you respect, whom you consider both elder and worthy of respect, you always take a cap and wear that cap before him. While on the other hand, the Western culture is exactly the opposite. There, when you appear before someone whom you respect, you take your hat off. With the result that when you appear in the court, only the judge has the right to keep his hat on, and that is the wig, I mean. And the rest must take their hats off. So you follow this culture meticulously, don't you? And why shouldn't you follow Islamic culture in the same spirit? Because if you don't wear a cap or something on the head when you're praying, that could be taken as a sign of disrespect. So appearing in a worldly court, you follow their rules and their norms. Why shouldn't you follow the rules and norms of a religious, most high, most elevated court? Yes? And this should be about the last question, I should say.
I'd just like to say this, that it's quite confusing. That the Kafirs who are against us, I don't quite understand why obviously they call us non-Muslims and they're killing us and fighting against us.
No, I can't understand that either.
No, I mean they're killing us and fighting against us, and I mean the Christians believe in a whole completely different thing, and they don't even touch them. They don't care what they see. I understand one thing, that the Christians don't believe the way we do, and we think we're Muslims. But I don't quite understand the fact that if they call us non-Muslims and they're non-Muslims, if they hurt us, why don't they hurt them?
Yes, that's the point. Yes. You made it. Why do you call yourself confused? You're very clear-headed.
Well, I'm just confused as to why they do what they do.
Because the fact is that because they believe you are true.
Yes.
And because they believe in the truth and life of Ahmadiyya, they are afraid of it. You're not afraid of dead entities. You are afraid always of a life phenomena which can envelop you, which can swallow you up, which can flourish at your cost. So they are truly afraid of you. They know something in you which is very scary to them. So that is the only reason. Otherwise the rest is just excuses. Otherwise the differences that you have just pointed out between them and the Christians are immense. And they don't pay respect to those differences. Differences between them and the idol worshippers, Hindus and so on. I mean, there are differences like between antiquities, and nobody cares. So they are not honest in their approach. They just want an excuse and that's all. And this is the lame excuse they have got, that you are not Muslim, so you must do anything you like to you. But you have not a confused thinking at all, I must say. You are a very clear-headed young boy. Yes? Is that the question after last?
Is it true that when somebody is converted to Ahmadiyya,
Yes.
he loses all the sins from the past religion? So he starts a new
If
life there?
anybody who repents truly and honestly, his past sins can be forgiven. You don't say his past sins are automatically forgiven, because it is with Allah to forgive sins. It is for Him to decide. So that can't be said about everyone who gets converted to Ahmadiyya too. There is a likelihood, we can say. He has got the chance of a lifetime if he is so sincere and if he is truly transformed, that his sins would be forgiven. But beyond that we can't say with certainty.
So that means if he's just doing it to clear up his sins while he's in hell, so that means he wouldn't be forgiven his sins.
So I said I can't say because it's up to Allah. But there is every likelihood, yes. The second question after the last? Okay. Now are you taller than these two boys? Go on, let's see. Oh no. Yes.
I'd like to know how the black stone is how the Kaaba got there.
I have explained this at length in one of the cassettes, and this question is going to cost you £1. And you can buy that cassette from Mr. Akil Mia, and if you want to save your money, you can return the cassette and get your £1 back after listening to it, right? Yes? Ayub's son? No. Munawwari Saab's son, are you? Are you the son of Mr. Munawwari?
Yes.
Yes, please.
So, as Hazrat Adam was not the first person first prophet on earth,
He was the first prophet on the earth, but not the first person on the earth.
please could you tell me who was the first person on earth?
It is said, recently an article is published, and it is said that the first person was an African woman. 1.5 million years ago. Yes, please. No, I was only thinking first.
Hazur, why is it that whenever you refer to God, you say Him?
Beg your pardon?
Why is it that whenever you refer to God, you say Him?
Refer to?
God. Allah. And why do you say Him?
What would you prefer? Yes, sir? You have no choice, either him or her. So better to call it him. Just a reference point, that's all. It doesn't signify anything. Only a reference point. Because he is neither he nor she in true sense of the word. He has no sex, and he and she have also the connotations of sex. So as far as that connotation is concerned, it's lacking. So it's, human inadequacy of expression. Otherwise, there should be a third word, if it can be invented, it should be invented about God. So, just a minute. Yes? Please?
So someone asked me to ask you, but I think he wants to remain anonymous, that who's going to lead us in the Namaz Jummah next tomorrow, please?
That he wants to remain anonymous. All right, let's see. Who is going to lead them in prayer? It is to be decided by the administration here. And no better person than Khaja Rashiduddin Sahib can decide this, because he is head of Ansarullah and this class is organized by Ansarullah, isn't it? By Jamaat, I'm sorry. So whoever has been made in charge of this, running the affairs of this class, he would decide. But he said the person wants to remain anonymous. You want me to decide?
Yeah.
Now let's see. Who is here? All right, Mr. Muniruddin Sabshams will lead the prayer, right? And after that, what's the plan? When are you going to end this class?
Sunday morning,
Sunday morning, what time?
lunchtime.
What time? You want to ask another question?
No, I just wanted to ask one question about.
Why did you say no? You said yes.
Yes.
Like, have you heard about Gurdwara Sahib? No? If Sardarji was going to Gurdwara Sahib and somebody asked him, Sardarji, are you going to Gurdwara Sahib? Is the place where they worship, the Sikhs worship. He said, no, I'm going to Gurdwara Sahib. So he retorted by apologizing. He said, I'm so sorry, I thought you were going to Gurdwara Sahib. He said, no, I've told you, I'm going to Gurdwara Sahib. So something of that, has been done by you. Come on,
I was
please.
just going to ask about if we have to stay Saturday night or not.
If you have to,
Stay Saturday night or not in this week.
here,
Yes.
if the class is going to end up on Sunday, naturally you have to stay the Saturday night. If you won a prize or something?
No, it's just that I thought we weren't going to have any lessons on Sunday. We're gonna have to leave by lunch.
No, but we will have a ceremony organized on Sunday. And there will be prize distribution and final hello and this and that. And I think a little bit of feast as well. Some good food will be cooked. by way of apology for what they have been feeding you on. Yes?
You just said that you called God him, but you called the ship she.
So it's exactly. But when you call a ship a she, the ship doesn't become a she, does it? See? That's what I meant. It's an inadequate expression. To call a sexless thing refer to a sexless thing with something which carries the connotation of a sex. But because human beings are made like this, so God has preferred to be referred to him as he rather than a she, because it's considered more respectful reference, because although man and woman are alike and they hold the same respect normally, but females are the weaker of the two sexes, aren't they? In so many ways. So why should you refer to God, if you have to refer to God anyway, why should you refer to him in a sense where there is a connotation of weakness about him, which is not. So Allah doesn't like it. He condemns it very strongly in the Holy Quran to be referred to as females because of this connotation. God. How many hands? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they are the last 5, okay? Really last. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes. All right, starting from here, we'll go back and then come forward. Right?
Guru, when you came to England, did no one see you in the airport?
No, some people were there.
Yes, but
You were not.
no, I didn't see because I wasn't there.
Yes.
But
You would like very much to be there, won't you? Well, next time, inshallah.
can when you go to Pakistan, can we go in your airplane as well?
Well, you can possibly, but whether it will be possible for you at that time to get accommodation in that plane, I don't know. I can't say definitely. But you're very clever, you're planning something of that. Which was the second hand view? You're right.
I'd like to ask you, why do we use 786 instead of Bismillah?
You shouldn't. It's wrong practice. Yes?
The notion of the abominable snowman in the Himalayan mountains, is that true? By Islamic?
Could be, could not be. It is not yet established. But the closest evidence that we have so far got about the existence of snowman came from China. And the Chinese government have officially appointed a team of investigators to go into this question. And about the report, from the reports published from time to time, we believe that they came very close to capturing something like a snowman. And there were evidences of his having been somewhere, although he was not seen directly or confronted directly by the team of the investigators, but they saw marks of his presence on the trees, in the form of footprints and so on. And a lot of reports were made to them by the local people in certain mountains. So there is a possibility, you can't rule it out. But so far the fact has not yet been established. And the third person who wanted to ask a question?
What was third, sir?
That was the third? No, fourth, I mean, I'm sorry, the fourth. Then is the fifth?
He's the fourth, sir.
No, he is not fourth, but there was a fifth sitting somewhere here. Yes, behind you. Yes, please sit down. Yes, you are the one. No, behind you. You are the last one and the fifth. Huh?
This is from a previous question. Do the Christians believe that Prophet Adam was the first man on earth?
The Christians and the Jews should believe wrongfully, because the way the Bible describes the phenomenon of first birth, it appears that Adam was the first man and Eve was created out of his rib, and she was the second lady. While the Holy Quran, strangely enough, always refers to the first person who was called a human being from whom the human generation started to be a female. While in the Bible it's always a male who gave birth to a female, and from then on it started. The present evidence, as I just referred to, indicates that the first person to be called a humanoid, Homo sapien, it was a woman who gave birth to mankind, and from then on they retained their characteristics of human beings. Now the real last. Huh?
What is the meaning of Miman? And what is it?
Miman? Miman or Maman?
Oh, Miman.
Miman is a race, a caste, or what should I say? It's a tribal name to those people, for those people who originally hail from Gujarat district of India. And they were very good tradesmen. So they became wealthy as a class, and because they mostly intermarried, didn't go out, so they preserved their features, those class features. And now they have spread all over the world. And they speak Gujarati or Kutchi, and mostly they belong to the Sunni sect rather than a Shia sect. And mostly they are Ahl Hadith. That is, they believe in the tradition of the Holy Prophet, and they are very strict in the performance of their prayers and keep their time, etc. very conscientiously. Good people altogether.
Because my granddad is a man.
Is that why you are asking this question? Why didn't you ask your granddaddy this question?
Pardon?
Why didn't you ask your granddaddy this question?
He's gone to Pakistan.
And you thought of this after he had left. Yes. Anyway, it's a compliment to you, the answer, isn't it? You're happy that you have a mammal blood in you. Is that right? Good. I'll say sound like it.